Hey guys.
Okay.
I'll give it a couple minutes, I guess. I don't know if we can see the chat. Can we see people? Scroll up. I was able to see people before.
There we go. Yep, they're seeing you.
Hey guys. All right, so I'm here at the Massachusetts Peace Action Rally for Earth Day. Can you guys hear me okay? Is anyone in the chat?
Yeah, a couple comments.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, I hope you guys can hear me okay. They can? Okay, cool. So I'm here at the Boston Common for the Massachusetts Peace Action Earth Day rally. So we have a couple of speakers lined up. I'll also be speaking as well. So I'm just going to be live streaming this event. So I wish I could see you guys, but I can't. I'm on the other side of the camera. If you can get Sabby has legs. I was gonna try to get a arm, but I'm going to I need to retweet this on Twitter. I wonder if I hope it doesn't take me out if I, okay. I get to meet you in person. You want to say hi? I'm streaming.
Hi, everybody.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Lily Goldstein. I work with Caleb Boffin in the Center for Political Innovation, and I'm just out here to talk to people about GTI and Earth Day. And a lot of people tell you today is actually London's birthday. A lot of people don't know that Earth Day is also right around London's birthday. I don't know. I just heard about this project and it seems out here. It looks like Neil Stein's here, right? Sure? Yeah. Wow.
Can you mute real quick?
Yeah. How you all doing today?
Woohoo!
Hi, Lily.
Okay, cool. Oh, Valerie said the audio is bad. Are you muted? Yep.
I am now. The show that would have been bad. We wanted to time for audio. If you want, we can take your output.
Not really. Yeah. They invited me to speak about freedom of press. Basically, pretty much, I know. Like, Nick's screen, he was talking about like Ukraine, and his stream, his stream was cut. Oh my.
Is it like back or it's just like?
I have a mic. When we plug the mic in, because they said without a mic, the audio will be hard. Let me see. I have this mic.
That was me. That's because my mic was on and it was.
Let's see if they can still hear me. Can you guys hear me?
All of us know that these are interlocking traces that require comprehensive solutions. And we're here today.
Test.
Like a Green New Deal.
Could you do me a favor? Can you pull this up on YouTube and tell me how the audio sounds? I want to make sure they can hear this mic.
Community control of police.
They said they can hear me a little bit. I have a mic plugged in.
And so much more. We've got a ton of great speakers. We'll share more.
Oh, should I put on wired headset? Should I put on wired headset? Test. Okay, that's better. All right, guys. All right, can you hear me? Is it okay? Okay. I was making sure. I put a mic on. Let me go over here.
Good afternoon. I am awesomely elated to be here, and I'm happy to say during this birthday celebration, victory is assured, and I'm convinced that we shall overcome the obstacles before us with regard to justice. On this, it's hard to deny that we share a common space. On this magnificent terrestrial and water-bound globe, we share a common habitat. It's a place we all live.
You want to plant this cord,
and we share a common destiny as brothers and sisters.
Okay,
against the odds of those
I just want to make sure they can actually hear him.
Those forces that would splinter us, those forces that would break our common bonds. Sharing this planet.
Well, you can't.
Sharing this planet in common reminds us of
It doesn't. It's gonna move. I think. See.
Common will and common ground. So why would it just be a coincidence that we stand gathered here on Boston Common? It's mighty majestic flow.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Gathering together for reflection and recreation. And we know that the Boston Common is a place where we make bold pronouncements and public speeches. This is why we are here.
Okay, thanks so much.
I have another tripod in my bag. I'll pull up.
Together, sharing and seeking a better way and a higher cause. A better way to live in mutual affection. A higher cause against self-regard, against self-interest and self-aggrandizement. We must learn to live on this planet together as creatures and biological expressions of all types of respect. Violence and exploitation of the resources of the earth. Which are committed in the name of justice. Which are committed in the name of freedom. Which are committed in the name of capitalism. Earth Day represents our challenge to embrace the miracle of the creative diversity in all platform that allows us to celebrate our dynamic material reality. Global warming is a form of violence. We must ever commit ourselves towards pacifism, towards the earth, a non-violent reflection that reflects the beauty of this world and all that is in it. And we must realize how we must destroy the earth and material environment around us. We must also value ourselves as humans who exist on this planet. We must continue to reject poverty. We must continue to reject racism. Red, yellow, black, and white are all present in God's sight. So we must continue to reject hatred towards the gay, the straight, the queer, the bisexual, the transgender, and the homosexual. Violence against any children on this earth or substance of the light of the world is wrong. And we must reject violence of all kinds, especially youth violence. It's violence that some people committed downstairs.
So they said the mic is too sensitive. So I could unplug it. Battery power. I don't know.
We hurt each other. We hurt ourselves.
Not hearing him. I think Eric's gonna grab this other tripod. I don't know where he went though.
Against each other, the young people. This is important, people. The young people committing crimes against other people must face consequences. At the same time, we must find compassion for our young people in Boston and look to address their pain, their struggle. My friends, love is the question, and love is the answer. And we must realize that we can't do anything without love. And so in my conclusion, I say to you that you may be gifted with the tongues of men and angels. You may somehow possess the power.
So you don't want to tweet it out?
I did that.
Persuasive power, but if you don't have love, you have absolutely nothing. And you may possess, my friends, the gift of knowledge and have a storehouse of information and data at your fingertips. But if you don't have love, you have absolutely nothing. And you may have the power of artistic and cultural vision. You may be able to write literature, craft poetry, compose music, or stage great plays like no one else before you. But if you don't have love, you have absolutely nothing. What we activists in social justice warriors must realize is that love must be the foundation of our efforts.
Oh, you trying to get it on?
Unscrew the bottom. That can stay.
Careful, don't hit the end button.
Thank you.
They said the sound isn't great, so I think the mic needs to be pointed back.
Seen as somewhat like putting a puzzle together. Creating a collective vision from a shared vision must be our goal. So environment is here on earth. But your piece of the puzzle towards our social justice goals is not enough. These activists in a military aggression and violence here at home, you're right, but your piece of the puzzle is not big enough. Mothers against drugs and violence in our streets. You are right in seeking answers and finding solutions, but the piece to the puzzle is not big enough. And those who seek change around Faneuil Hall and fighting for reparations in the city of Boston is enough. It's good, but it's not big enough. We must be wise like Joan Land of Selma, as I conclude, and pull the pieces of the puzzle together. We must gather ourselves in the middle of our divisions and work together. If we are to realize a world where social evils are addressed, we need to collectively endure towards addressing the big picture and work in Boston like never before To see the big picture, we must keep our eyes on the prize and move towards a larger mosaic of justice. We must find common ground. We must find common ground. We must find common ground. So let us take our individual pieces of the puzzle of democracy, the puzzle of our freedom, to pull them together into a mosaic, righting the wrongs together, finding peace and justice together, creating larger vision of unity together. Let's find common ground. Victory is assured. Victory is assured. Victory is assured. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Where's God's hand? Where's God's hand? Thank you, Kevin. Our next speaker is Dr. Jill Stein, activist, physician, former presidential candidate with Green Rainbow Party, and former Massachusetts governor candidate with the Green Rainbow Party. Jill.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Kevin, for that incredibly inspirational beginning, as always. And a big thank you to everybody for being here today. Our numbers may be small today, deterred by really bad traffic and really bad parking for people who weren't coming from public transit routes. But thank you to everyone for persisting. And sometimes you have to get out in front. Sometimes you have to get out in front even before people are ready. We all know the job that the media has been doing in keeping us disinformed about just about everything. Big exception to the media members who are here today. I want to give a shout out to the Revolutionary Blackout Network, Sabby Sabs over here. Are there any other members of the media here today? All right, we're all the media. Yes, we're all the media. We must be. Oh, there's more media. So thank you very much for doing what media has to do, because we can't have an educated population. We can't have a democracy without an educated public, and we can't have an educated public unless the media is doing their job, which is very hard to do nowadays. So thank you, media, who are not being lapdogs to power, but who are being watchdogs to power, and that's what we need. That's what we all are here today. We're not just watchdogs to power. We are the engine of power, of grassroots power. We are the power going forward, and that's really our whole purpose in convening this gathering today. And this gathering is what democracy looks like from across the spectrum of justice, of climate justice, and social justice, and labor justice, and prison justice, and all the forms of justice that we need to be together, because if you put us together, we are an unstoppable force. They may have the money at the moment, but we have the people and we have the power. And I especially, if there's one thing to drive home today, it's the words of the poet and the novelist and the activist Alice Walker, who says the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with. We have it, we've got to use it, we're going to use it. I just want to say a few things about what we hope to be advancing today, which is really a coalition across the spectrum of justice and peace, a coalition that can continue working together, because it's usually a game of divide and conquer, which is how they manage to rule us. But we as a people, of course, it is poor and communities of color who will get hit first and worst on everything, especially the climate, especially on economic justice, especially on jobs. To the point, one of the points Kevin was making about the struggle for justice here in Boston, I just have to give you one statistic that so sticks in my mind. This came out in a series of articles done by the Boston Globe a few years ago, which showed that the average Caucasian family in the Boston area has a wealth of about $250,000. $250,000 for the average Caucasian family. But the average wealth of the African American family, who's got it? $8. $8 disgusting dollars because of the incredible debt, the incredible hardships, the incredible disadvantages from, mortgages to credit card debt to healthcare debt to especially higher education debt. These are all things that we must fight. As we fight the cause of climate justice, we must fight for all the forms of justice as well as for peace. And I will just say a quick word about that so I don't overstay my time. But we know right now there are such war drums that are beating. It's very hard for people to get a full understanding of what's going on. Those of us who were around just after the Twin Towers and 9/11, we may remember that frenzy for war. We may remember that war for weapons of mass destruction that turned out not to be there. Since that day, we have spent $21 trillion on military. 21 trillion, our latest budget is close to $1 trillion when you add up all the hidden pieces of it. It's more than 50% of our discretionary budget. Every time you open a newspaper or your computer, you see that there's another $100-some million that are going to Ukraine. And of course, we have great sympathy and anguish for the suffering of the people, but we must also remember the great suffering of the people in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Iran, in Libya, in Syria, in the many areas around the world where we have been told, don't look. But we must look. We must look up to see the climate storm that is coming, and we must look around to see the human storm that surrounds us. These can only be solved together. All of them are going in the wrong direction. But all of us together create an unstoppable force for peace, for justice, for action. I won't try to say my remarks, which I've completely neglected here. I won't try to say that right now. But in the excitement of the moment, it is so beautiful to see this powerful gathering from across the sectors of society, from across our movements. Because when we join together, when we refuse to play the game of divide and conquer, when we join together across the spectrum of justice and peace, then we are an unstoppable force. Be sure that you connect with us today. You can connect with us through the Mass Peace Action webpage or their website. Let's stay connected. Let's make today a beginning, a new kind of Earth Day, a new kind of day for people, planet, and peace over profit. Together we are unstoppable. Thank you so much. Sign up with Amar right here. Sign up with Amar. If you're not on our mailing list on our networking, this is the guy. And big thank you to Amar, by the way, for bringing us all together.
Thank you, Jill. Like you said, we're all here building our coalition to grow our power. So real quick, let's chant. The people united will never be divided. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be divided. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be divided. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Jill. Next, I want to call up John Burkhart, who's with Extinction Rebellion. Thanks so much.
Hey everyone, my name is John Burkhart with Extinction Rebellion. We are a global civil protest organization. Our aim is to get governments to take more action on the climate and ecological emergency. The most recent IPCC report kind of flew by. It was released the day before Russia invaded Ukraine. Wasn't really in the news, but world scientists reminded us let us know that we have already committed now to irreversible changes in our climate. We have left it too late for climate mitigation. And they said that we almost have no more time left for adaptation. So what does that mean when we fail to adapt to climate? What happens when we go beyond the limits of what we can adapt to? It means collapse. It means the collapse of fragile political systems. It means mass starvation, and it means war. And now with the war in Ukraine, we're reminded about the threat of nuclear war and what politicians and warmongers by policy calls mutually assured destruction. But by not taking action on the climate and ecological crisis, that is also mutually assured destruction. Whether that happens in the blink of an eye, from the press of a button, or it unfolds over several decades. It's the same result. It's a finality. You don't get a second chance. And we have the power to change course. We have all the technology we need. We have all the natural solutions we need. What we're lacking is political will. Extinction Rebellion brings a tradition of civil resistance, mass civil resistance, to bring that political will. And we need your help. We need your help as organizers, as teachers, as students, as artists, as engineers, as young and old radical people, as creative and free-thinking individuals, to join us or to help us as allies. And so I'm inviting you all, I know you know about this, we're hosting an event after this rally. We're going to be over at Copley Square at 3:30. It's the Freedom from Fossil Fuels Tour. We're going to be visiting some of the biggest corporate climate criminals who are working right here in the city of Boston. And we're going to have some fun antics along the way. We're going to do die-ins, and we're going to do civil disobedience. And so I'm going to invite you all to that event. It's at 3:30 in Copley Square. And I'd also invite you to join us on our website. The website is XR, Extinction Rebellion, xrboston.org, xrboston.org. You can go on there, you can go on your phone. On the right, there's a menu, click join us, and put your name in there, and somebody will contact you and find out how you want to help. So thank you so much. And thank you for all the amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you, John. As Jill was mentioning, this coalition is planning to stay together and do more activities to take advantage of the synergy of all these different groups and issues. And a good way to stay involved with that would be to sign up with Amar over here, get yourself on the Mass Peace Action list, and there are teach-ins and events coming up, and we hope you'll be part of that. Our next speaker is Kimberly Barboza with the Answer Coalition.
I'll lower this a little bit. Awesome. So yeah, thank you so much, and thanks to all the amazing speakers we've already had so far. As you said, you know, my name is Kim, and I'm an organizer with the Answer Coalition. That stands for Act Now to Stop War and End Racism. And I want to just start us off with a strong chant because, you know, we got to get the energy started. We're going to have a march later, and that's going to be really awesome. So here we go. System change, not climate change. System change, not climate change. System felt by poor, working class people, people of color across the world. The second thing that I want us to really think about is what are the solutions that are currently being offered to tackle the enormity of the crisis that we are facing, and what solutions do we actually need? So today, I imagine most of us here have already read or heard about the dire climate shifts that are already in motion, temperatures, sea levels rising, and weather patterns becoming more extreme. We often hear about the culmination of these events, these weather events, as natural disasters, as inevitable, destructive, and unpredictable. But how natural are these disasters really? Some of us may remember Hurricane Katrina and when it struck New Orleans in 2005. Almost 2,000 people lost their lives, and over 250,000 people lost their homes and livelihoods. For a predominantly Black working class community, virtually no help arrived to restart city services, to assist in resettling, rebuilding the most impacted areas like the lower Ninth Ward. Instead, what did the city do? They began privatizing the school system. Prices on surviving properties went up. Public housing was bulldozed by private developers, and over 100,000 people were left to fend for themselves. Insurance companies refused to pay for flood damage, and thousands of people, they lost their FEMA assistance, what little assistance they had just a few years after this crisis. The federal government offered, or they promised to pay $100 million in aid, but in the end, only $44 million was spent, and most of that, guess where that went? That went to companies. So many of that money went to companies on no bid contracts, including one contract that was $576 million to a debris removal company, and they didn't even own a truck to remove debris. And y'all can look that up. I am not making that shit up. That is what happened. Under our current system, when these climate events happen, and they become disasters for the working class, not the rich. The very nature of the system we live under is counter to sustainability and environmentalism. Under capitalism, corporations need to find new markets, produce and increase their profits within an expand or die system. On a planet such as ours with limited resources and really no time left to waste, the questions that we must be asking is, why are our resources being used for anything but sustaining and improving our quality of life? What are we doing to face this crisis? We don't got more time, y'all. The time is now. And are the solutions that we have even enough? You know, one solution that I often hear is, ideas that promote individualist actions, such as recycling or becoming a more conscious consumer, so that if we vote with our dollar, we can make the change we want to see. But I think one thing that we need to think about is that while there's nothing wrong in being more conscious about the impacts our choices make, what is the logic driving behind this type of solution? It's putting the blame on us. And did y'all know who spent millions of dollars on a PR campaign to push this idea of a carbon footprint calculator? That's right. It was British Petroleum, otherwise known as BP, a company that's in the news every other week, right? About oil spills all across the globe. And the fact that they are behind these efforts should tell us everything we need to know. This so-called solution does nothing but deflect the blame on us, the poor and working class people of this country, for conditions we did not create, all while minimizing the scale of this crisis. And this drive for profits, it's required by the capitalist system in order to grow endlessly. And it also leads to an incredible amount of waste. Waste has become such an important issue since the end of World War II, as we've seen with the emergence of, the marketing and consumerist culture that we live in here in the United States. 99% of the products that we buy today are discarded just after 6 months. And what's even worse is that the waste that's actually created in the production of these products are 70 times more greater than the waste that's created by disposing the products themselves. 70 times greater. And the immense scale of this waste only occurs under a system, a capitalist system of production that's only goal is to make profit. And then finally, this is the last point I'm going to hit on, is that we're living in a period of imperialism, which is the highest stage of capitalist development. Under imperialism, the entire global economy is carved into different spheres of influence, and there's a constant tendency towards war, because the only way for a country and its economy to expand is to encroach its territory onto other markets and other places. War is a natural consequence of this capitalist logic, that they need to conquer new markets and resources. And it's not a policy choice that a government can choose to adopt or not. An endless war, as we know, and as other speakers have already said, leads to an incredible, immense loss of life. And not just human life, we're talking about ecological life. Think about when bombs are dropped, what that does to the ground, to the soil. Those aren't changes that can be easily reversed, right? And the U.S. Pentagon is one of the world's largest unregulated polluters, and it's provided an endless amount of funds. Think about the most recent budget that was passed, against this, war in Ukraine. We're talking billions of dollars when we couldn't even, spend money on supporting people right here. What about the war on Black America here in the U.S.? Where's the money to fund that? So I think, we need to really start thinking urgently and quickly on this question. So these examples should all show us that the wealthy will only tend to their own interests, even in times of dire emergency like what we're facing right now. This is a climate emergency. And what we need is collective action and system change, not climate change. We need to target the real culprits of the climate crisis, the corporations that degrade the environment and that benefit their shareholders, and the capitalist governments that are beholden to them. What we need now more than ever is organization, and to build this fight back movement that understands that capitalism is incapable of solving this crisis because it is the crisis. For the planet and for the people to live, capitalism and imperialism must die. So I'll end this off. Yes, give a big round of applause to that. Those things have to go. So I'll end this all with the chant that we started with. We need system change, not climate change. 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 Thank y'all.
Thank you so much, Kim. I'm excited now to bring up Peter Crawley, who sits on the Cambridge Climate Protection Committee and is a member of Save the Pine Barrens.
Hi, everybody. What an amazing day to celebrate the earth. Or as the indigenous folks in South America say, Pachamama. We want to say gracias, Pachamama, for this incredible place we call home. And we promise we're going to work hard to try to preserve it and save it and protect it. So that's why we're here. Yeah, my name is Peter Crawley, and I'm here to tell you about a grassroots movement, because that's what we need. We cannot rely on our governments. We cannot rely on our corporations to do the hard work and to do the honest work of protecting species and organisms that don't have a voice. Who's going to speak for the trees? Who's going to speak for the animals? They have rights just like we do. And if we don't speak up for them, no one will. They'll just be another item to be extracted from this incredible resource rich planet we were given. And so that's why we need to organize. That's why we need, in the words of Paul Hawken, to create a real blessed unrest of groups, grassroots groups coming together on 1,000 points of light to make a difference. And I'm going to tell you about one local point of light here in the Boston area, and that's called Save the Pine Barrens. Save the Pine Barrens was formed out of the horror of seeing hundreds of acres of supposedly cranberry agricultural land be stripped of trees, be mined of all its sand, mostly to be sold to fracking companies, because they use this very fine silica sand from the Cape Cod area to blast for more natural gas. So as John Muir said, you pull one thread and it's connected to everything else. So that's what being grassroots and engaged means. It may feel small, but it's connected to everything else. So let me tell you a little about the Pine Barrens, Save the Pine Barrens. And please go to savethepinebarrens.org. You can become a member. You can join some of our actions. You can get templates to write your representatives. You can get tools to use your social media connections, and just do as much as you can as an individual and part of this grassroots group. So you may not know it, but in the Plymouth County is something called the Sole Source Aquifer. This is the biggest aquifer and underground aquifer and water supply for 7 towns in Massachusetts. It is under siege by stripping all the trees, mining the sand, and therefore removing all the filtration from any industrial pollutants that end up in the aquifer. So let me ask you, how do you value clean water? Can you put a price on that? Water is life. How about clean air? How long can you go without breathing, without oxygen? So what creates oxygen in the air? Trees. Trees. Can we continue to chop down trees and pollute our aquifers and think that we have a chance of surviving as a species independent of all these other species? No, of course not. So the point is, there's nothing too small to protect, and as Tip O'Neill said, all politics are local, and so I would really encourage you to please speak to Lyndon here and Craig here, who have brochures for Save the Pine Barrens and a moratorium petition that we are asking you to sign. The petition addresses the fact that our tax dollars at the state level are being used to incentivize industrial size solar farms that are denuding and mining hundreds of acres of old growth pine barrens. The Pine Barrens, if you don't know, is a rare ecosystem found in only 3 places on the planet. And it supports a certain ecosystem that has a lot of endangered species in it. Some turtles, some plants. And so when you tear it up, you're touching the whole cycle of the biome, and none of it is dispensable. So again, I really want to thank everybody for being here. Indeed, these grassroots movements, this is what democracy looks like. And please do sign our petition for a moratorium. And I want to mention one other wall of shame candidate, and that is AD Makepeace. They are the largest landowner in the state of Massachusetts. They are the largest cranberry producer in the world, and they own upwards of 6,500 acres of land in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, that they are shifting from being a cranberry farmer to a sand mining company. They have a subsidiary that does that, and they make far more money selling the sand and renting the land to industrial solar than to create cranberry bogs. Matter of fact, they've gotten They get agricultural subsidies and protections, and then they get solar subsidies and protections, and they've only built cranberry bogs on 11% of the land that they've petitioned for all the mining and stripping. So if you see or hear an opportunity to voice your discontent with AD Make, please do it. So I want to go back to the chant of the people united cannot be defeated. The people united cannot be defeated. The people united cannot be defeated. So stick together. We're grassroots, we're tight, and we're one of the 1,000 points of light. And thank you all for all you do.
Thanks so much, Peter. Like you said, the Pine Barrens are under attack, and their grassroots group is building power to take them back. And if you're interested in joining that group, you can find Peter or Craig. They've got flyers. And I want to lead us in a chant now. When the land we love is under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. When the water we drink is under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. When the air we breathe is under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. What do? Stand up, fight back. What do? Stand up, fight back. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. And if you want to gather in a little closer, we're going to call the band up and Jenny to sing a song. It'd be great to have us all in community if you feel comfortable.
Thank you all for being here. And all the organization, Massachusetts Peace Action, and everybody else, all the climate action groups, and everybody. We need each other. This is a true coalition building. And we're going to sing together. Keep your eyes on the prize. But before we do, I will just demonstrate that I'm a living coalition builder. I stand with the Poor People's Campaign, a coalition building organization in itself. Please join us on June 18th, when it's a moral march on Washington, where all the interconnected injustices will be addressed. And look, here's another organization sponsoring today's event, HERO, which stands for Healing, Empathy, Redemption, Oasis. We organize nature healing walks, and we also advocate to make nature prescriptive. We need to connect with each other, and we need to connect with Mother Nature. And that's going to be very efficient in our wish to protect her and protect each other. And as the founder of this organization, Judith Foster, who couldn't be here today, as she would have said, there is no one size fits all to our problems, to our various invisible wounds. But Mother Nature fits everybody. And just like the trees search each other right under here, there are roots stretching for miles and miles to get connected. So we are connected. And we need to have fun if we are going to last in the long haul. So that's why we're singing, that's why we're chanting, that's why we have lots of art in this movement. We have the lovely Babel Street Orchestra, and people can join them. If you want to be part of a street orchestra, search and join with Babel. This very Sunday, Poor People's Campaign, we're going to have a justice jam to get to just gather, sing together, and have fun, and get to know each other right here. Next to the frog pond and the brewer fountain, 5 o'clock on Sunday. Come along with your voice, with your rackets, with your guitar, everybody just jam. And now, sing along with me. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Let's learn it again. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. One more time. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. We are gathered here today because we believe there is another way. Sing out. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. To climate action, we must haste, and we've got no time to waste. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Sing on, hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. While far apart we feel so near, and we are not giving in to fear. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. In the midst of struggle and strife, we see a glimpse of a different life. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. And I forgot to say something important. If you want to fill in this petition to make nature prescriptive, not instead of other medicine, but together in combination. If other countries can do this, why can't we? And it's a matter of accessing nature that we all have a right to. And Estelle here in the blue hat and Flora, they have it. So you can just get up to them. We need to work for all it's worth to protect our Mother Earth. Keep up. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. And in so doing, there's no doubt injustice must be ruled out. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Sing along. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Yeah. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. And this is important. We need a shift of priority to reach a moral prosperity. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. And these demands are far from new, but still they're ringing oh so true. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Sing along. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. To our leaders, use all your might. It's your duty to do what's right. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. And to you and me, it is our call to make the changes big and small. Hold your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on, sing it out. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. One more time. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize.
You're on live. Excuse me.
That's great.
Sabby will be speaking in a little bit.
Oh, good.
We're going out live on our channel right now. Yes. Doing it live. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Are we live streaming? Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you, everyone, so much for watching. Thank you to Sabby for being here. This is amazing. So, yeah, no, super exciting and fun. Yeah. I saw you giving an interview to the TV news there. Sure, yeah. Okay, yeah. No, I gave a couple interviews. That's why I came over here to get Jill to want to interview for the TV thing. So we're going to bring Jill over there. I'm going to come right back. Okay, I'll come back. Sabby's up next. She's up speaking next. So we're getting really excited for her speech.
We're so excited to have Sabby here as a part of this new coalition, which is kind of
I love Revolutionary Blackout Network. I listen to them when I'm exercising. They are awesome. Compton, Jay, and Nick, they're so great, and Sat, they're amazing. So everybody should watch them. We should promote them today for sure.
Yes.
Okay, Jill, can we give you a minute? Let's go this way.
Switch the
It'll be fine. It's fine. I'll deal with it.
25th at 1 o'clock in Kendall Square, Cambridge, right near the British consulate at 1 Broadway. We're going to meet in Galaxy Park across the street from the consulate and then march to the British consulate and demand that they not extradite Julian Assange. Meanwhile, we're writing to Biden and Merrick Garland to drop the charges. This is so insane. President Obama, for all his faults, at least did not think he could prosecute Julian Assange. But Trump came in and said, no problem, let's get him. So instead of Biden going back to the Assange, to the Obama policy, he just went right ahead and carried out the prosecution. So they are trying again. And this will do terrible things for investigative journalism, for our right to free speech, and it's just so wrong. This is a guy who said, if wars can be started by lies, peace can be started by truth. And he laid his life on the line, and he stuck his neck out, and he is paying dearly for trying to make that happen. So please, free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Thank you. I have a few extra Julian Assange signs up here if anyone would like to wear one. Our next speaker is Sabrina Salvati. She's a member of the Revolutionary Blackout Network and the host of Sabs podcast.
A little short here, but here I go. First and foremost, I want to thank Massachusetts Peace Action for hosting this event. I'm Sabrina Salvati. I'm the host of Sabs podcast and the co-host of Revolutionary Blackout Network. As a political commentator, I, like several others, constantly battle censorship. I have to be careful about what I say. Sometimes I have to use code words that luckily my audience know what I'm talking about when I use those words. So I wanted to discuss freedom of speech and freedom of press. Over the past few months, I've seen journalists and commentators censored on many platforms. All of them independent journalists, of course. Some of them have lost years of their work on YouTube and Spotify. You may know some of them. Chris Hedges, Abby Martin, Lee Camp, Tara Reid. All of them have had their work erased because they revealed the truth about the US imperialism, regime change, and these ongoing wars abroad. Independent journalists, we are at risk of losing our voice because we do not repeat the lies fed to Americans from networks such as CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. Although independent media has increased, our numbers are relatively small when compared to mainstream media. These media outlets control the narrative. And oftentimes, that narrative is false, and oftentimes, that narrative leaves out important information. While they continue to bombard airwaves with Russia and Ukraine, they remain silent about attacks in Somalia and Yemen.
That's right.
They make excuses for economic warfare to make Americans feel better about children starving in Afghanistan because of the sanctions imposed by the US government. They preach a pro-war message that I feel is incredibly dangerous because it gives Americans the idea that the United States government are the good guys and the countries abroad are the enemy. And that's where my job comes in. Independent journalists and commentators, we are here to fill in the gaps that CNN leaves out. We are here to correct the lies and reveal the truth. But we cannot continue to do our job if censorship persists on many of these tech platforms. Big tech and US government is trying to silence us. When I think about Julian Assange, I'm reminded of just how far our government will go to silence us. Julian is being tortured for revealing the truth about US war crimes. This is why freedom of truth, freedom of press, freedom of speech are so incredibly important.
Yeah.
If it were not for independent journalists, would we know about the truth about the chemical attacks in Syria? If it wasn't for independent journalists, would we know the truth about the war in Iraq? If it wasn't for independent journalists, would we know that the George Floyd protests continued even though mainstream media stopped covering it? You don't have to agree or like what we have to say, but that's okay, because you also have the choice not to watch or not to listen to us. But we should have the right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to hear from Sebastian from the Jericho movement.
network. And we've come to spread solidarity with the other groups who are here and to show the connection between the political prisoners we support and the environment. Right now across the U.S., there are dozens of political prisoners who are sitting in jail for standing up to oppression. Many have explicitly stood up for the land and the climate as well. One of the sayings among the social movements from which they emerged is free the lands, and we take that seriously. The United States is one of the main beneficiaries of fossil fuel and perpetuates the global corporate kleptocracy through violence, proclaiming itself to be the land of the free. It claims we have no political prisoners or prisoners of war in our country. It constantly decries human rights abuses and aggression elsewhere. But we recognize the reality of this situation. In the richest country on earth, the largest public housing projects are its prisons. While the surest way to have health insurance and go to college is to sign up to kill others in the name of freedom. One of the longest held political prisoners is Leonard Peltier. Instead of repression and extortion from the U.S. government on Lakota territory in the 1970s at the occupation of Hawaii. The tribal government and FBI were complicit in murdering and silencing Native people and refused to do even basic investigations on them, while they were allowing multinational corporations to mine and plunder the sacred Black Hills, while cutting the community entirely out of the process. Leonard Peltier has been incarcerated since 1976, despite countless pleas for his release by Nelson Mandela and Mother Teresa and others. The U.S. has a long history of destroying indigenous cultures, which already have centuries of tradition around living in harmony with the environment, to replace those traditions with greed, apathy, and violence. This tradition of violence towards indigenous people has still been ongoing, with the mass arrests surrounding the current Dakota Access Pipeline protests across Dakota and federal territory, and the Line 3 protests, which led to over 1,000 protesters being arrested while the government ignored the pleas of the communities for to be affected. While there are tribes who still don't have access to clean water infrastructure, we have money to send guns halfway across the planet and oil pipelines across the streets of poverty. There are countless more political prisoners like Mutulu Shakur, Mumia Abu-Jamal, Sundiata Akoli, Ed Poindexter, Joy Powell, and Eric King, with dozens of others who have collectively spent centuries in U.S. jail systems. On October 25th, the International Spirit of Mandela Tribunal, along with several other organizations, found the United States guilty of genocide against Indigenous, Black, and Brown people since its inception. Spirit of Mandela is also organizing a People Senate across the U.S. across organizational lines to create real democracy. If we are to find justice for the earth, we must find justice for those who stood up for the earth. If we cannot respect the rights of people, if we cannot live together without oppression and exploitation, then we will find no solution to this crisis. This society is deeply harmed through its basis in colonialism and white supremacy and its alienation from nature. This toxicity reaches all the way down to the core of our society and our government. And without rectifying this, there will be no way to find peace and harmony with the earth. The highly individualistic and materialistic world allows us to dehumanize others, remove consequences from our actions, and remove culpability from those in charge, while making resistance to crime at the same time. Make no mistake, our Earth is being attacked, and those who are destroying our planet will not face justice from our system. This system would rather hunt down those who are standing up to greed and destruction and place itself in their activism. We must recognize those who are in prison fighting for and seeking justice. There are countless more just in this country that we do not need right now. But if you cannot remember and fight for us who have fought for our freedom, we deserve to all.
May Day. Boston Common.
Thanks so much to the Jericho Movement for being here.
Good job.
Now I'm going to call up Lady Lawrence, who's an organizer with the Poor People's Campaign and the group Housing Equals Health.
It's the May Day event.
Hi, I'm here with the Poor People's Campaign and from Housing Equals Health. All of us here are fighting the same fight. All of us here are fighting the same fight. It really comes down to this. As each of us is fighting, we're fighting on different fronts. And as has been said earlier, we need to fight together. Right now, rents and food prices have been increasing very rapidly. Evictions are up, unhoused people are up, and with the war, that's gotten much worse. Our government's response, more bombs, and not protecting people at home or abroad. People get hurt in war, but the ones who bear the brunt are poor. And that's on three sides. Those invading, and the rest of us. We're hoping that you will come and speak nationally because your fight is our fight and our fight is yours. So please come to DC on June 18th and speak up. The Poor People's Campaign is everybody in, nobody out. There are no cost, low cost bus tickets. This is not about dollars, it's about people. So anybody who wants to can show up, stand up, and speak up. Maureen over there has flyers, and you can Google Poor People's Campaign June 18th for Massachusetts. We're all in this together. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is JD from the Party for Socialism and Liberation. One thing we wanted to mention, we would love it if you would support the vendors here. We're kind of invading their territory a little bit. And Dan is serving lunch over here, so take advantage of all the opportunities in this little part of town right now.
All right. So, peace, everybody. How we doing? All right. I dig it. So, my name is JD. All right. I'm a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. And if you don't know, we are a socialist party that believes that the crises we see all around us, poverty, sickness, homelessness, war, climate change, and protecting life on this planet cannot be solved without fundamental change. Now, when I say fundamental change, I don't mean just voting for this or that politician who makes good sounding promises that they don't plan on delivering, just like Biden and many of or all of his predecessors have done. I mean a revolution, meaning a complete change of the social, political, and economic order. Now, as we celebrate the beauty, the diversity, the life-sustaining qualities of our planet on this Earth Day, we must also recognize the dire future that awaits us under the status quo. It is absolutely clear that climate change threatens the very survival of human civilization. Yet, politicians in the United States, the self-proclaimed leaders of the world, who preside over its largest source of emissions per capita, remain at a standstill. The world scientists have come to a consensus that the Earth can only handle 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming before total climate catastrophe begins. And thanks to Wall Street financiers, fossil fuel lobbyists, and their friends in government, the world has already surpassed 1.1 degrees Celsius of warming and is now on track for around 3 degrees Celsius of warming by the end of the century, unless there is drastic change. Now, unfettered fossil fuel usage and the drive for profit have already done significant damage. Each passing summer reliably brings record-breaking heat. Wildfires globally are increasing in frequency and severity, with fires now occurring year-round. Tornadoes, floods, rising sea levels continue to devastate lives and collapse essential infrastructure worldwide. Biodiversity loss is increasing due to rising temperatures as well as ongoing ecosystem destruction at the hands of capitalist industry. And in the wake of these catastrophes, the U.S. government's response has routinely been inaction or outright hostility to the idea of doing more to protect the planet. Opponents of environmental destruction, especially indigenous water protections, have faced imprisonment. 2021 saw a record number of environmental activists killed globally for their work. Now, last November, the Biden administration had a historic opportunity to guide global climate policy at the COP26 climate summit. Biden had a chance to detail a plan to achieve the goal he laid out last Earth Day, a 50% reduction in emissions below 2005 levels by the year 2030. Instead, the summit once again produced only non-binding commitments. It was attended en masse by over 500 paid fossil fuel lobbyists, the largest delegation at the summit by far, which constituted double the entire number of indigenous delegates. The Build Back Better bill, which was expected to be Biden and the Democrats' signature piece of domestic policy legislation, hardly delivered on its climate promises either. And even these proposals ultimately went down in flames. The bill's climate section allocated $555 billion for preventing climate catastrophe. And the majority of this money would go towards tax credits for producers and buyers of renewable energy sources. Funding would also go towards making buildings more energy efficient, paying homeowners to switch to electric appliances on solar panels, providing rebates for purchasers of electric vehicles, and creating a civilian climate corps. Notably absent is any provision for penalties for companies that continue to burn massive quantities of fossil fuel. Now, Biden is intentionally trying not to step on the toes of the powerful fossil fuel CEOs and lobbyists, instead raising unrealistic proposals like funding for carbon capture, a technology so impractical, expensive, and inefficient that it is not widely implemented anywhere in the world. But even still, the passing of Build Back Better would have been a major development in the context of U.S. environmental policy history, considering that the last attempt to pass climate legislation was under Obama in 2009. Now, under the cover of war hysteria targeting Russia, Biden is preparing to actually expand oil and gas drilling in the U.S. to offset the high gas prices that could bite Democrats in the midterm elections. It is clear, y'all, that green capitalism will not save us. A democratically planned economy focused on meeting the needs of the people and the planet is the only way forward. For the earth to live, capitalism must die. We need socialism. It is only socialism, people's power in action, that can save the planet and our species. So join the PSL, come and talk to an organizer about how you can get involved in the fight for a new world, a socialist world, where people and the planet are put above profits. Thank you.
Thanks, JD, and thanks everyone. We've got 2 more speakers before we head over and march to join the Freedom from Fossil Fuels tour with Extinction Rebellion. So before our next speaker, I want to do a little chant. Hey, hey, ho, ho, fossil fuels have got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, fossil fuels have got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, fossil fuels have got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, fossil fuels have got to go. Awesome. All right. Our second to final speaker is Chance, who's an organizer with United Against War and Militarism.
How's it going? So yeah, I think it's great to see people out here, standing for the climate, standing against war. And I think that last part is especially important right now. And I want to talk about that because we've been seeing for the past month how the U.S. has been escalating more and more, trying to get more U.S. involvement in this war in Ukraine, which in addition to the environmental crisis, threatens to a direct war between U.S. and Russia, and that could potentially spiral out into even a nuclear war. So the opposition to that is incredibly important, especially right now, where voices of dissent all across the political spectrum are being silenced, labeled as traitors, labeled as being propagandists for Putin, just for standing up against this war, just for standing up against U.S. escalation. This rising censorship is not just about Ukraine, though. We see that the leaders of this country want to silence anything that's out of line. Just look at what they're doing to Assange right now, trying to extradite him back to the United States. Just look at, like another speaker said before, about the rising censorship of independent journalists and any dissenting voices. They want to say that any criticism of U.S. militarism, any criticism of nuclear brinkmanship, any criticism of the war machine is just being pro-Putin and being anti-U.S. And we have to stand very strongly against that. This isn't new. This isn't new. Everyone should remember that when the George Floyd protests started, the response, the immediate response from the media and from politicians was to blame it on Russian interference. And then they realized, okay, well, let's try to co-opt it when they realized that wasn't going to work. So of course we need to condemn Russia's invasion. We need to condemn its brutality, expose how its interests are not in liberating Ukraine, but replacing one oppressor for the other. And we've seen the massive thousands of people pouring out into the streets in Russia opposing this war because they see clearly that this war isn't in their interest either. But none of this, condemning Russia, none of this means that the US military is a force for good. Everywhere and every time in history, we've seen time and time again that US invasion and military intervention only makes things worse for the people. It only increases their misery and their suffering. The only people it benefits are a small few of the multinational corporations and especially the weapons manufacturers like Raytheon, which is based here in Massachusetts. We can look at Yemen, where over 7 years, millions face famine and disease. They suffer from a brutal blockade. While we're here in the United States, paying $4 or more a gallon for gas, because of the blockade and war in Yemen, they're paying over $9 a gallon. And this is one of the poorest countries, not just in the Middle East, but in the world, paying $9 a gallon for gas because of the US-backed blockade and war and genocide in Yemen. We can look at how the US military destroyed Iraq and destroyed Afghanistan. Look at how they still wage war all across Africa. Look at how they sponsored death squads and dictatorships in Latin America and all around the world. Do we really think it'll be any different in Ukraine? That they really have the people's interests in heart? They sent $800 million just yesterday. Just yesterday, they sent $800 million in military aid. Since the war started, the total cost of military aid they sent is over $3.5 billion in just a month. And where is this money going? It's going to the military. It's going to far-right forces, even fascist forces. What is the U.S.'s interest in this war in Ukraine? It's to turn Ukraine into another zone of endless war, another battleground where they can prepare for greater conflict against Russia and China. And that would mean nothing more and nothing less than a third world war. That's something that we have to keep in mind, that we have to think really deeply about. Because none of this helps the people of this country. None of this helps the American people confront the litany of crises, economic and social, that we face. The homelessness, the rising prices, the unemployment. None of this helps us here. It only helps these multinationals and weapons manufacturers and these military alliances that are threatening to destroy the planet. So this isn't something that we can change just by electing another politician. And as others have said, war is the logic of this system. War is the logic of this capitalist and imperialist system. And we have a state that's run by this class of capitalists. So what we need to do is really build popular movements against this, really build a grassroots movement which doesn't get sucked in to the co-optation of the system or let itself be repressed by its violence. We need to stand firm, and we need to go against the tide, against the agenda of the rulers of this country, which is leading us to further death and even nuclear annihilation. We can't let the anti-war movement drown in this rising tide of pro-war propaganda. The rulers of this country, they have no interest in peace. We can't ask them to nicely de-escalate. Look at Obama, where he ran on the promise of ending the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And where did that lead? Nowhere. He escalated the wars in those countries. He added 7 more wars to the US's list in his 8 years. So we can't rely on the system, we can't rely on the politicians, which make promises only to break them later. We have to build a strong movement today, come across the political spectrum to oppose this war, to oppose this nuclear brinkmanship, because that's the only thing that'll save us. That's the only thing that'll save us. And while we have a long way ahead of us, I believe that we'll win. Thank you.
I want to put in a little word for the Raytheon anti-war campaign. I'm a member of that group, and we try to give Raytheon a hard time, and we dole them out for their crimes and their taking advantage of all these wars to make money. We are taking the speaker off the list so that we can get over to the XR Rebellion, XR rally sooner. But our last speaker is Stevie Downey of the Boston Native Coalition.
Hello, everyone. How are we today? Happy Earth Day. It's good to be here. Thanks for having everyone. Had a lot of great speakers today. It's very nice to be a part of something like this that's really, truly trying to make better for the world and the planet we live on for future generations. I'll try to keep it short because I know we have a bit of a time limit here, but I'll say what I have to say. We, as a society, are living in a climate crisis. A crisis that we've known about for decades. It continues to get worse as the years goes on. Environments and ecosystems are being heavily impacted negatively. Glaciers are shrinking more and more. Global temperatures are rising, and the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has risen at least 25%. And of course, let's not forget the overwhelming amount of litter and waste products being dumped all around us on both land and in the ocean. Now, pardon my French here, but I really want to quote something I saw from Bill Nye in a video before. Basically, he had it put, the planet is on fucking fire. Excuse my language. But it really resonated with me because honestly, it's true. The planet is on fire, and if we don't do anything, it's going to heat up more and more and more. As I said, glaciers and such are shrinking. You know, the carbon dioxide is rising, the heat is rising. This can't be. This can't continue. I hear a lot of concerns about the youth not having many kids, previous generations. Oh, why aren't the kids, not having more kids or anything like that? And to me, that was always like a red flag to me. Because with the state of how the world is in, does this really look like an environment you want to bring more kids into? I mean, no offense to everyone who has kids or thinking about kids, no disrespect here, but clearly, with the state of the world it's in right now, this is not the best, most suitable environment to bring more kids in. You know, other concerns I hear is that, oh, well, you know, this is for the future generations. I won't be alive when the climate strike really gets worse. And it's like, first of all, yes, you will. And second of all, if you're sitting there, you're concerned about us not having kids, then you want to turn around and not do anything about climate justice and dismiss it as, oh, well, let that for our kids and grandkids. Let them figure that out. That's not a good mindset to have. Oh, excuse me here. Now, my next thing I want to talk about here is who here isn't aware of fossil fuels, doesn't know what it is? Just raise your hand. Awesome. Fossil fuels are formed by the decomposition of buried carbon dioxide organisms that died millions of years ago. They make up 80% of the world's energy, and they are also used to make plastic among many other products. So with this, think of all the plastic among other trash you see in just this city alone. Never mind the other cities in the States and other countries around the world. Now, in this case, in case anyone doesn't know about this, it takes at least 100 years for plastic products to decompose. Now think about that, and think about all the plastics you see all around you, littered around the states, all around the cities, around the world. And think about all that. It takes at least 100 years for those plastic products to decompose. But for us, it takes at best one minor inconvenience to just take your plastic and recycle it. So really think about that here. You can either recycle your plastic, which some people might think is an inconvenience, or we can sit there and wait around for hundreds of years to decompose. So I don't know about you, but that doesn't spell well for our planet, to sit there and just let it rot. When fossil fuels are burned, they release large amounts of carbon dioxide into the air. As of right now, the average global temperature has risen by at least 1 degree Celsius. Furthermore than that, means that sea levels will rise, extreme weather, biodiversity loss, and species extinction, as well as food scarcity, worsening health and poverty for millions of people worldwide. Take a second here to think about the people who live on or by the coast, or really anywhere near that radius. Now, what do you think will happen when the sea level continues to rise for those people who live by there? Just use your imagination. Now, I know some people, some less empathetic people will say, well, why don't the people who live by the coast just pack up and move? And my question is to that is how? In a society where we give billion-dollar tax cuts to the rich, but leave nothing but crumbs and chump change to the middle and lower class families. I've often heard of helping people seen as just handouts, which is something, again, that both speaks out to me as a red flag, as something that is both ignorant and, to be honest with you, cringy. It's never handouts where we give bailouts to the rich. But when it comes to helping out the people that are being exploited by said rich people, it's been, dismissed as just handouts. So to me, I don't know about you guys, but I think that's ridiculous, obnoxious, ignorant, and crazy. And that mindset needs to go if we're going to preserve our planet for the better. You have big oil companies such as ExxonMobil, Shell, BP, Total Energies, Chevron Corporation, and many others that are among the biggest corporations associated with fossil fuels. Clearly, this is something that can't go on. This is going to be one of the most devastating issues that we have in our fight with climate change, among everything else. And if we don't seriously change our ways and continue to let the fossil fuels company damage the planet without any sense of accountability, we're not going to have a planet anymore. And no amount of billionaire money is going to fix this. So for those who think that, I don't know, Elon Musk or some rich oligarch is going to build some nice fancy spaceship and move us to a different planet, I'm going to invite you to drop that naive morality right now. Because that is yet again another thing that's going to inhabit our fight for climate justice. We need to take appropriate measures and preserve and heal our planet. That includes reduce, reuse, recycle, buying less plastic and using more sustainable products, planting trees, educating those around you, Those are just some of the things that we can do to help our struggle for climate justice. I implore you to do something. Please don't just leave this as a situation for the person next to you or for our kids and grandkids. It's really on us. If we're going to fix things, we need to come together as people and band together and take our planet back. Some of the other things you can do here, mass peace action. Follow everything they have going on social media, everything else. Take action with everything they're doing. I'm with the Boston May Day Coalition. We fight for issues along with climate justice, along with racial justice, justice with women's rights, LGBTQ, you name it. Get involved with other coalitions and other groups who are truly trying to make a difference in the world. If you want, after this, feel free to come reach out to me, reach out to anyone from Mass Peace Action or any of the other groups here that are fighting for justice here and get involved. Because only here is when we're going to make a stance. It's not on some rich politician or whoever to keep this going. We need to come together as people and take our planet back. Thank you.
Thanks so much, and thanks to all of our speakers. We're about ready to head out to march to Copley to join the Freedom from Fossil Fuels tour with Extinction Rebellion. And Jenny's going to come up here for a song to sing us out. But you can look for Jakob and Will, who are over there in the orange vest. They've got the banner. That's who we're following. So we can head that way to get to Copley.
Okay.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Susan, and Amar, and everybody that will be part of it. Beautiful girls team out there. I'm sure fired up. So let's just see a cooler response.
I'm sorry.
Here. It's called Rise Up.
No, go ahead.
Rise up. We're gonna rise up. Let's hear it. Rise up. We're gonna rise up. One more time. Rise up. We're gonna rise up. Rise up. We're gonna rise up. We ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. People united.
Now we're getting a win.
All right, guys.
Don't fall.
A little bit quiet so you can hear me. All right, guys.
Go in front of this tower just to get out of the wind. We're gonna get a wind noise like this.
This is gonna sound silly. I'm trying to remember where it belongs to. Oh, yeah, it's over there.
Right here.
Right here?
Let's try that. All right, how'd it go?
That was awesome, you guys. Maybe me and Eric, like later, not today, of course, but at some point we can clip like something or whatever.
Oh yeah.
We'll figure it out. But yeah, guys, hope you definitely enjoyed that. Definitely, check online for other Earth Day events that are happening today. I'm actually gonna head home to beat the
traffic. Talking about May 1st.
Yeah, May 1st. Actually, there's another event. It's happening here. Okay, May 1st on May Day is International Workers' Day. So that's another event that's going to be happening here in Boston at Boston Common. And this is also going to celebrate the victory of the nurses that went on strike in Worcester, Massachusetts. So this would be pretty awesome, you guys. I'll talk more about that on the stream. And then, what am I doing? Oh, so I'll be on RBN at 6 o'clock tonight for a stream. And then I'll be back on my channel at 8 o'clock tonight for a stream. But yeah, this was awesome, you guys.
We're doing call-in tonight?
Yeah, we could do call-in. It's going to have to be limited to an hour, though. I got it limited to an hour tonight. And Rome will be here tomorrow, you guys. I don't know if I'll see Rome tomorrow, but he'll be here tomorrow. And we'll do Tour for the Poor on Monday. So, yeah, that was awesome. Again, this event was put on by Massachusetts Peace Action. Jill Stein was there. Like, everyone I met was so awesome. And one of the things that was said
by and I don't want to say old school, a long time activist, is that we need to be calling out the media. Like, we need to be protesting more the media, because that is the big problem, because they control the narrative. So that was good to hear. But yeah. All right, I'm gonna head out. Sometimes you can get lost on Boston Common. That's why I'm like, where is the garage again? All right, Eric.
It's underneath you.
What am I doing? Yeah. Well, I walk this way. Okay, yeah, I walk this way. Anyway, all right, guys. Bye.